What was driving me was actually friends telling me that there's a story that needs to be written. You know, I think when it's your own story, you don't think there's anything special about it. But some very dedicated friends kept insisting that there was a story there to be written. So I sat down and I started writing the story, and it was an interesting process because as you write, you remember more, and as you write, you understand that what the story is. So that was the process, and then it was interesting that I could, having done it and looking back, I could see that there were two clear parts of the story. There was the general son part, which is the Zionist upbringing, the admiration for the military, the pride in being part of this very Zionist activist family, with presidents and prime ministers and then all around us and generals and family members who held important positions and so forth. Signer of the Declaration of Independence, my grandfather. And then the second part, which is the journey of an Israeli in Palestine, where I'm suddenly recognizing that there's a Palestine and I've got to define what is Israel, what is Palestine, what's an Israeli, who am I in all of this, and the lessons that I've learned as a result of that journey, which is geographically not very long, but politically, emotionally is a very difficult journey to take. Writing is very therapeutic. So I mean, when you sit down and write, it's like untangling a knot. The raw emotions are like a knot. And as you write, you use the words to untangle these knots. And there are many, many knots, especially, I mean, the whole thing for me started, the journey began, and again, I think this is typical, big changes in our life, big changes in our thinking usually come up as a result of something terrible. And in my case, it was when my 13-year-old niece was killed in a suicide attack in Jerusalem. Now that's a big emotional knot. Now you combine all of that with what I knew Israelis were doing to Palestinians, and I didn't know very much at that point, but I knew some. And then the emotion, or the fear, the suspicion, the doubt, the guilt, once you start traveling into Palestinian towns, once you start engaging with Palestinians and coming to terms with their reality and the reality under which they lived, and the reality that was forced upon them by people like my family members who were these staunch Zionist fighters and so forth. And then the writing helps you to clarify and again untangle all of these emotions, untangle all of these knots, and really in the end make it clear to me where I stand and how I view the entire issue. We meet opposition all the time. I mean, my journey hasn't ended. It's a lifelong thing. I evolve with the journey, but there's opposition all the time. There's opposition all the time. Some of it is never expressed because it's so raw, and the emotions are so strong that you just keep it inside and you don't bring it out. It never comes out. Sometimes it does come out, but the opposition is never ends. The sense that there are certain things we don't talk about, the sense that certain things we don't share is very, very strong, and I don't think that's ever going to end. Whether it's with some certain friends or family members, I don't think that ever ends. I know other activists, Israelis and or others, American Jews or others, that have had a Zionist upbringing and have gone through a similar journey and experienced similar things. So I meet people like that all the time. And I also meet people who read the book and say, wow, this is exactly what happened to me, or it forced me to look at my own upbringing and my own thoughts and ideas about Palestine and about Zionism. So yes, as I travel and speak and go places, there are people like that. I see more and more people like that all the time.